Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this class. And in the last classes, we have been discussing basically the basics of that programming language. And, without that programming language, we cannot use the Flutter. So you need to have a good understanding of that programming language. And that is how you can actually be a good Flutter developer. But we'll get to that later, okay? But for now, we are still on that basics. And today in this class, we'll be talking about function. Okay, the last one we were able to complete the control flows, but we'll be talking about function today. And basically, I need you to understand. Okay, I just want to make this as simple as possible. Okay, I don't want to be using big terms that you might not understand, but look at it. Function is just like it is being called function. It does a particular thing. Okay, a function does something for you. Okay, something like get me the book, something like add 1 plus 2 for me, something like fetch data for me, something like brush my teeth. Okay, it does something for you. And with this, if you really understand the point I'm trying to make here, writing functions will be very, very easy for you, and you know exactly when to use function and how to use them. Okay, writing functions, when you have a full program, okay, your programs can run in millions of codes, okay, thousands of code. You cannot put all of them in one file, okay? And basically, you use function to divide the whole program into subtasks. Let's say you have a program that is going to, let's say an ATM machine program, okay? We will have a program that will ask the user for their name and their password. You will have in the full program, you ask the user for their username and their password. You ask the user to how much they want to deposit, okay? And when they say how much they want to deposit, first of all, when the user even provide their names, their username and password, you first of all check if they are valid users of the application, okay? If they are valid users of the application, you now say, okay, you give them the access to have to the application, and they can withdraw money, they can deposit money. So all these things, you see, the whole program has a lot of deposit money, withdraw money, validate users' input, check if they are if they are really registered in the application. So all these things, you can just put them in small chunks, and this is what we call functions. It will make your code easier. It will make it more maintainable. It will make it easier for other people to read. It will even make it easier for you. Okay, so basically, you have a full program and you just break it down into small chunks. Okay, so that is the reason why function is very, very valuable. In most programming languages, you definitely have functions. Okay, so I need you to understand why you need functions. Okay, function does something for you. Okay, function does something for you. Okay, and I need you to also understand something. Okay, functions, okay, you must give function an input. You give function an input, the function will process it, then it will output the result. It will return the result. Okay, so you give function something, all right, it processes it and it gives you the results. Okay, that is what function really does. Okay, and basically another reason why you should use function is there's a principle in programming they call DRY, D-R-O-Y. Don't repeat yourself. Okay, when you have a similar code, a block of code, and you have written it once, you have written it 2 times in your code, you have to put it in a function. It's easier for you to do that instead of having to repeat a whole lot of things. So while we go on with our function class, you're going to see all these things I'm mentioning. Okay, now, but before we leave this class, okay, I need you to understand. I believe by now you understand what functions are, why you need functions. Okay, now, but I need you to before we leave this class, I need us to do something. I need us to talk about the anatomy of a function. Okay, we'll have to get more practical here. Anatomy of a function. Okay, so a function, this is how we declare a function. Already, you can see this main. This is our main function. This is a function. The main function is a function. Okay, so I'm not going to, I can also declare this function inside the main, but I will not do that. I'll have to do it outside of the main. Okay, now let's take a look at the anatomy of a function. A function would have a return type. A function will have a return type. A function would also have the function name. Sorry. A function will have the function name. A function name. A function would also have the parameter type. Parameter type. A function would also have the parameter name. And last, a function would have the return value. Okay. Now, let's take a look at this one by one. Okay. Let's write a function. I told you that a function does one particular thing for you. Your functions must always do one particular thing. Don't ever allow your functions to do two things. It must have just one particular thing. Okay. Make sure that most functions you write, let them always do one thing for you. With that, your code will be easier to read. It will be easier for you to debug. And when you have errors in your code, it will be easier for you to debug. Let's say in my program, okay, I want to add a number. Okay, let's say I want to write the square root of a number. Okay, is going to do one particular thing. Okay, so this is my particular function. Okay, what would I expect it? I will give it input. Remember, you give your function input, it will process the input and return the value for you. So what will be the type? Remember our data type. Okay, remember every data you're using here in your programming, it must have a type. So after processing, after the function finishes the process, what would I want it to return to me? What type of value would I want it to return to me? That is the return type. So here I want the return type to be an integer because I'm going to do a square of a particular number. So I would the return type is int. Okay. Then the next thing I have to do is to give it a name. I will call it square roots. Okay. And I will open parentheses, and the next thing here is to give the parameter. Now, what is the parameter? I mentioned that your functions will ask you for your functions will need input. So they will need input, they will now process the input and return the result for you. So what type, that thing I want, the input I want to give to the function, what is the type? What is the data type of the parameter? Okay, parameter is just the name of the input. Okay, so it's just the input you want to give to the function. So of course I want to give the function an integer so that it can square it for me. So the data type is going to be int, and the name of this of the input, I can call it I can just call it, no, I can't call it num because num is a data type here. So I can just call it, okay, I can just call it number. Okay. Then after the closing parenthesis, I'll put my block. I will put my block. Remember, my curly braces is going, we talked about scope, right? Remember in our previous classes, we talked about scope. So with my curly braces, I have created a scope for this function. So what do I want? I want to return. So you will use the return keyword because you're going to return something, okay? Not all functions return something. We are going to talk about that, and I'm going to make an example with that here, but not all functions will return something. So, but right now we want our square root to return a value for us. So I will now say return. I'll use the return keyword, and I will now return number. The square root of number is number times number, right? All right. So I will end my statement with a semicolon. You can see I have written a function. What does this function do for me? It just gives me the, sorry, not square root. Sorry. I'm so sorry about this, please. It is the square. It is square. Sorry, square. All right. Okay. So I'm squaring my, if I give it 2, it will do 2 times 2 for me and return 4, right? If I give it 3, it will do 3 times 3 and return 9 for me. Okay, so that is it. So I mentioned the anatomy of a function, and let's go through it one by one. The return type here is the int. That's the return type. Okay. The name of the function is square. Okay. The parameter type is int. The parameter name is number. Then the return value, okay, is that I can just say, if I want to make this function more understandable, I can just do it. I can just put, I can just say final results. Result is equal to, and I do this. Result is equal to number times number. And at the end, I will now return results. Do you understand? Okay, so it's still the same thing, but here I am writing 2 lines of code, but in the previous one, I just wrote 1 line of code. So I am storing the variable. I'm storing the variable. I can still do, I can say, I give my variable the data type, okay, but of course, remember that will infer the data type for you, but here is more understandable and more readable, okay? So this is, I told you that a function takes an input, processes the input, and return the result for you. So look at it now. This our function takes an input, which is this number. When we give it this number, whether 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, it will process it for us. What do you want it to do for you? Right now, I want it to just give me the square of the input. So I am squaring the input and I'm storing it in a variable, and I'm now returning the variable. As simple as that. So if I call, now, how do you use this function? Okay. Right now, we are just confined to using the main function. Later, when we start writing classes and writing bigger programs, you're going to see other ways you can use your function. But right now, we are just going to use this function. Now, I have a variable here, int number, and it is 5. And I want the square of this number. So since I want the square of this number, what do? I just have to use my square function, and I will do this. I will do int results is equal to square, and I'll give it this number variable, sorry, and I can now print my results. You can see it. So if I want to square any number at all, I can just use my square function. Remember, I told you, why would you use functions? You use function basically to break down the full program, the whole program, into chunks, so it will be easier for you to maintain, read, and debug. Secondly, so that you don't repeat codes. You don't repeat your code, okay? Right now, if I run this code, it's going to print out 25 for me. You can see the value. Okay, there's a lot. We have a lot here to talk about functions. Okay, but I'm going to end this video here. When I come back, I'm going to talk more on the parameter, the return type, the parameters of the function, and how to call a function. We're going to discuss this time so that it will be easier for you to understand. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.